My name is Sam. I'm the Partnerships and Communications Manager here at Fairygodboss. And if you didn't already know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our platform supports women throughout their careers with free resources like company reviews, job listings, webinars with various experts like Samantha, virtual recruiting events, and a community where users can be honest about their triumphs and failures, either as themselves or anonymously. Before we start off, this webinar will be recorded and sent out to everyone in an email, so you can watch it back, rewatch anything you might have missed at your leisure. We'll also be doing a Q&A at the end, although I know Sam wants to take questions throughout. So to leave a question, you can go to your chat, but there's also a great Q&A feature. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen. And with that feature, you can leave questions as yourself or anonymously, so feel free to do so. Here with me today is Samantha Ettus, founder and CEO of Park Place Payments. As a dedicated champion of women, Sam has devoted her career to advocating and supporting women in the pursuit of their dreams. In Sam's quest to help women achieve financial independence, she launched Park Place Payments, and since earning her undergraduate and MBA degrees from Harvard, Sam has become a best-selling author of 5 books, a renowned speaker, and host of a nationally syndicated call-in radio show. Sam makes regular national television appearances on shows including NBC News, The Doctors, Access Hollywood, Good Morning America, and The Today Show, among many others. She's been featured and quoted in the Wall Street Journal, The New York Times, USA Today, Inc., Fast Company, and Success Magazine. Sam is active in causes relating to women and girls and is co-founder of the LA Women's Collective, aimed at supporting women to run for office nationally and win. Thanks so much for being here today with me, Sam. Over to you.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Good morning, or if you're on the East Coast, good afternoon. I am so excited to be with you today, and we are talking about one of my passions, or right now my focus and passion, which is tapping into your financial destiny, which is something it seems that men are born into and women are not. And so I'm hoping together we can change that. So just to start and share with you the landscape, this today is what was said on CNBC just a few months ago. A woman's best shot at reaching 1% status is not to have a high-paying job or advanced education, but rather by marrying a man with good income prospects. So let's just listen to that for a moment. When you hear that, how does it make you feel? What's your instinct? It makes you feel frustrated, angry, shocked, right? That's bull, says Darcy. But the bottom line is that it wasn't CNBC's commentary. It was from a study that they found that says that that is a woman's best shot of reaching the 1%, which is frightening. And so we need to change that, and together we can. So just to set the landscape a little further for you, there are 3 ways to get the wealth you want. You can be born into it, right? Like Princess Kate. You can be a trust fund baby. These things are probably not happening to you, right? Because you have to be born into that. You can put a ring on it, which will be temporary, which is marry well, which is talk for someone else to give, okay? You can find a sugar daddy, another thing I don't endorse. A little bit of sarcasm here. Or you can earn it, okay, with a career or a side hustle. Now, are you guys able to see my screen? Yes. Okay, good. Someone just said that they can't see the screen. Darcy, a lot of people are having trouble seeing the screen. They can only see me, and I'm hoping you can see my slides. Let me share one more time. Here we go. Do you see it now? No. Okay, this had worked when we tested it. So I'm not exactly sure, but for now I'll go through the slides. There's nothing that is desperate for you to see. But if Sam gives me some guidance, maybe she can tell me.
Hey, jumping in here. It was up for a second and now it went white. I'm not sure if you want to just go out of present mode and then just take it through in a regular format, if that makes sense.
Okay, So I am going out of present mode. Let's see. I don't think that's going to work. Let's see. Do you see my screen now?
Still white.
Still white. Okay. Let me try one more time and then I'm just going to go through it without showing my screen, which is also totally fine. Okay. Now you see me, correct? Yes?
Yes.
And now I'm going to share my screen one more time. And do you see my screen now?
We only see your mouse. It's very odd. It's up for a second and then it just kind of goes white.
So we'll just go through it looking at me, if that's okay with you. All right?
Sounds good.
So basically there's 3 ways that you can get wealth, okay? You can be born into it, you can put a ring on it, or you can earn it. And this talk is all about how you can earn it and build your own wealth. So the first thing I'm going to ask you all, and this is something that I have started to ask roomfuls full of women, and I cannot tell you what it inspires. What is your relationship with money? Can any of you share what your relationship with money is? Someone wrote that they hate money, right? And that's avoidance. Now, these are very, very typical things. I try to hoard it. I love money. So the money sets you free. So caution and avoidance. Now, a lot of women, and I would include myself in this in the past, my husband would try to budget with me and I'd be like, oh, let's talk about that tomorrow. Like I pull a Scarlett O'Hara on him. Like, I don't want to talk about that right now. But at the end of the day, men are constantly talking about money. If they go out to dinner with friends, they talk about money. They talk about how much they're earning, what they want to buy. They're constantly talking about money. Now, I'm going to share with you a personal story that started my own relationship with money, which is that when I was a little girl, I was 11 years old, and I grew up in New York City in an apartment building, and I was with my mom, and she pointed out a friend of hers that I'd known forever, Mrs. Riles, and she said, you know Mrs. Riles? And I said, yeah, and she said, Mrs. Riles hates her husband, but she has no money of her own, so she can never leave him. Never, ever, ever be like Mrs. Riles. Now, would I share that message as bluntly and crassly with my own kids? Probably not, but the message was very clear, which was you don't want to be dependent on someone else for your money. And time again, I see people getting into situations financially, especially women, where they make themselves financially vulnerable. Now, this happens for a variety of reasons, right? We have a baby and then we look at our husband's earnings versus our earnings and say, oh, he earns more. I barely make more than the babysitter. I should just quit my job. Well, the problem with that is it's faulty math, because when you leave the workforce for just 2 years, there's less than a 50% chance you will ever get a full-time position again. I'm going to repeat that because it's so startling. When you leave the workforce for just 2 years, there's less than a 50% chance you will ever get a full-time position again. So what happens is that women and families are doing faulty math. They're comparing 1 year's salary with the salary of a babysitter or daycare, and they're saying, oh, it's not even worth it because I make $40,000 a year and I would have to spend $40,000 on childcare. Well, the reason that's faulty math is because when you stay in the workforce, you are ensuring that you can always get back into the workforce and you can keep up your earnings. But when you leave the workforce, you find that there are no opportunities left for you when you want to return. So what you really need to be doing is comparing the 5 years before your child starts kindergarten with the salary you'd be making for the rest of your life, because odds are that if you leave, you will never get a full-time position again. So the reason I love this question, what is your relationship with money, is because I want to encourage you on your next mom's night out, girls' night out, whatever it is, college friends. I want you to sit with your friends and say to them, not just how's your boyfriend, how's your girlfriend, whatever it is, say to them, what is your relationship with money? You will see so much come out, because relationship with money is the longest relationship you will ever have in your lifetime. Think about it. Other relationships come and go, but your relationship with money will last forever. So you want it to be a strong one. And the more comfortable we are talking about money, the stronger we can be. So if you think about spending money, and I'm just going to sort of share with you the landscape in America right now, the average American household has $132,000 worth of debt, not including their mortgage. So that means the average American household is riddled with debt, right? And only 5% of what we spend is on entertainment. It's largely on things we really need. 32% is spent on housing. We have a housing crisis in America. 13% is spent on food, 8% on healthcare, 3% on clothing. This is the average person in America. Now, we like to think, we all do this, and especially as women, we do this. We look at someone else and we say, oh, they have the perfect life, right? They're richer, skinnier, they have better behaved kids, they have a better job than we do. And I will tell you that after working with thousands of women, nobody has the life you think they do. And every single person has problems. If you had that body, you might be suffering from melanoma that you don't know about. If you had that career, you might be battling a lawsuit. If you had that marriage, you might have infidelity. Nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. And so we're much better off trying to make the best of our lives rather than comparing our lives to other people. So just so you know, in terms of the grass is greener, 80% of full-time workers live paycheck to paycheck. That's 80%. And we tend in our society to put people down with money, right? If you don't have money, we talk about you as being irresponsible. If you do have money, you're greedy, you're snobby. So we are constantly using money as an insult to put people down because we don't really understand it and we get jealous of it because of what it can buy. 1/3 of Americans don't save money because they don't even know how. They don't know what the tools are to do so. Now, there's a lot of reasons that money matters, okay? There's your financial security. There's spending money. There's your independence. There's your health, your savings, and there's role modeling. And so we're going to talk about all of those things. First of all, with financial security, your career is very long. Now, if you're someone who hasn't had kids yet or thinking of having kids or you already had kids, you have to remember that your career is very long. We now live well into our 80s, the average woman. So your career is really long and the baby years are really short. They're just 5 years long. So you don't want to make short-term decisions that are going to ruin your financial future. Secondly, it's really important to diversify your investments. So an example of that, a very easy example is, let's say you and your partner both work for the same company. That's kind of a risky proposition, right? Because all of your eggs are in one basket. Or if one of you drops out of the workforce and only one of you has a career, again, you're not diversifying. That's one way of thinking about diversifying. Another way of thinking about diversifying is to think of it in terms of what you invest in. So not just keeping your money in the bank, but investing in the stock market or investing in a business or investing in real estate. Those are things that can diversify your investments. But 70% of Americans have no financial plan, and you do not want to be one. You also want to be thinking, even really early on in your 20s, you want to start thinking about retirement. Now, the cost of debt is not just what it does to your psyche, but it's also what it does to your health. Debt is correlated with higher blood pressure, with heart disease, stroke. It lowers your immunity and leads to higher stress and mental health issues. And it makes you less likely to visit a doctor or dentist for regular checkups. It's also a significant predictor of health outcomes among young adults who live in debt-riddled households. And debt also aggravates social isolation because when we have no money and we're always worried about money, we end up not wanting to be social because we have this much bigger thing on our mind. 16% of suicides are in response to financial problems. So what is financial independence? We talk a lot about it and about the importance of it, but what is it? Well, financial independence is defined as earning an annual income of at least 150% above the poverty level. Today, young people are less financially independent than ever before. So it used to be that in 1980, 32% of young adults were financially independent by age 22. Today, only 24% of young adults are financially independent by age 22. Now, the comparisons between men and women are striking. In just last year, 42% of women ages 18 to 29 were financially independent from their parents versus 52% of men. So how did we get there? We're going to talk about that. So the number one thing is that if you look at women's magazines today and you look at all of the things that are told to women and taught to women and things we pass down to our own kids or our sisters or all the women in our lives, is we talk a ton about savings. Now, how many of you remember that whole thing that went on for a couple of years in the last few years about you can save $5 a day by not getting that latte? Do you all remember that? You know, save your money by not getting that expensive latte, okay? Well, the problem with that is you might have really enjoyed your latte. I have my daily latte here to show you that I'm indulging, but it's really important that that might be a highlight of your day, right? Like I look forward every morning once I get my kids to school, I go for my latte, and that's kind of my reward on the way to the office. Now, for many of you, that might be something else that you're spending money on every day. It might be you like to have a newspaper in your hand and you're buying that, or you like to buy books for yourself every month. Whatever it is, you can't shrink your way to glory. And so many of the sort of the commentary and so many of the women's magazines, what they say to women is save, save, save. And at the same time, what men's magazines are saying to men is invest, invest, invest. So think about that in terms of the dichotomy of what it is between men and women, right? Men are just thinking about investing and women are thinking about saving. And so men are building and women are shrinking, and you can't shrink your way to glory. You're much better off earning more than saving more, okay? So the idea is we want you to live within your means, but also expand your means. So think about that. You're living within your means, but you're always thinking about how to expand your means. Now, the other thing about earning money that's really important and something that a lot of, you can just go to, I think Sam is in my slides now. You can just go to view, present. Does that work?
Yep. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Go to view over here where my cursor is, present. Go to view, present. Here, right under Fairygodboss, you present. Okay. So we did this slide already. So I, for some reason, don't have control over these now, Sam. Can I control them or no?
I think it's on my screen, but I'll follow along with what you're saying.
Okay. So now go to the next one. So let's talk about role modeling. Okay, so one of the great things about being a working mom one day, if you're not already, okay, is that, or a working aunt or someone that is role modeling for the people in your life, is that you have to remember, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Now, if you are focused on your children's education and you want them to earn money, it makes no sense then that you're modeling a stay-at-home lifestyle where you're not earning money, because kids actually, they see those messages. So even if you're telling your child, be financially independent, get a great education, get a great job, what they see at home is dad's career is more important than mom's. And that is really important. And just to bear the consequences of this, daughters of working moms earn 23% more as adults than daughters of stay-at-home moms. Sons of working moms have more egalitarian relationships. So one of the best things you can do is model a healthy career for your kids. So knowledge is power, okay? So 43% of Americans don't even know how much money their partner makes. Now, tell me, for those of you that are on here right now, how many of you are aware of how much your partner makes? Do you know what they make? Yes, okay, a lot of you do. You are a very sophisticated bunch. So if you don't know and you only have an approximate, go home tonight and have a conversation about money, because the more you know, the better off you are. You never wanted to get into a situation where your spouse is the one who pays the bills and sees the bank account and you have no idea what's going on. Because the grim reality is that in more than 50% of cases, something surprising happens in our life. And that means that we get divorced, or our husband or partner ends up dropping dead or getting sick or unable to work. And so you never want to put yourself into a really financially vulnerable situation. Now, almost 80% of millennial women never, ever, ever discuss money with their partners. And 80% of women don't discuss money with their friends. And that brings me back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is you really want to hone in on this question: what's your relationship with money? I asked a girlfriend the other day what her relationship with money was, and she said, it's a terrifying relationship. Whenever I think about money, I literally get afraid and scared because I don't really understand money, and I don't understand how to invest money. I don't understand what we have, and I just would rather just turn a blind eye to it. So it's really important that you educate yourself about money. Now, what can you do about this? So one of the first things is to start talking about money and do it all the time. Get comfortable. You can't negotiate your salary if you don't know what people in your company are also making, if you don't know what your friends are making in similar fields. So what men know how to do is they're constantly talking to each other about money. I once interviewed Sally Krawcheck, who runs the Elevate Network. And one of the things she shared with me is that when she was on Wall Street, she had countless men asking her for raises over the 20 years she was on Wall Street. She never had one woman ask her for a raise. And she said at bonus time, at raise time, guess who got the money? It was the men, because they asked for it. Because when you're a boss and you're a manager, you're overwhelmed and you have to give the money somewhere, and you're going to give it to the people who ask. And women are not comfortable asking. They think they're going to get noticed, and they don't think about the fact that they've been in a job 2 years. It's probably time for a raise. So you want to know what your value is by understanding what you're worth and understanding your value in the marketplace. And part of that is about talking about money with your friends and family. Secondly, you want to set financial goals. Even if you are in a bad situation today, if you are unemployed, if you're in a low-paying job where you're just living paycheck to paycheck, you can set financial goals. As soon as you start setting those goals, you can start breathing again, and you can start expanding your wealth, because growing your net worth is the most important aspect in terms of figuring out what you want to do next. Sam, I don't know if it makes sense for you to be doing these slides. I think I need to be doing them and not sharing the screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Give me one second. I'll X out. You're all good.
Okay. So the important thing is that you need to think about what you are going to do to expand your wealth. Now, how many of you are working full time? Okay, a lot of you. Some of you are in transition. Someone just started a full-time job on the 18th. Congratulations. How many of you are working part-time? Okay. So one of the really important things is that whether you are, so for example, I met a woman recently who runs business development for a hospital, and she loves her job. And she said to me, I love my job. I feel so lucky compared to all my friends. I love my job more than they do. But I'm capped at what I can make in this job. And so because of that, I need a side hustle. So I would encourage you to think that way. How can you expand your wealth? Is it taking on another job, or is it volunteering at school? The bottom line is that if you need to get your family out of debt, or if you need to earn more money, you need to be really strategic about where you're spending your time, because your time is the most valuable asset you have. You probably couldn't spend any less time with your partner and still have a relationship. You probably couldn't spend any less time with your kids and still be a decent parent. You probably couldn't spend any less time at work and do a good job. So you're probably pretty rational about how you're spending your time. But all of us have a little bit of wiggle room with our time. We have that ancillary time that we either spend on friends, on hobbies, on feeling guilty, on volunteering at school. I see so many working moms volunteering at school in positions where their kids aren't even seeing them, right? It's one thing if you're volunteering in the classroom and your kid is having exposure to you, but if you're stuffing folders in the back, nobody is winning, right? Because leave that kind of volunteer job to someone who is not pressed for time and someone who isn't working. And you spend the time, if you're going to be volunteering, doing it in a way that's super strategic. Now, if you're in debt or you need more money or you want to leave a bad relationship because and the only way you can do that is to earn more money fast, you want to be laser focused on how to do that. Now, just to share with you a story about me, I've been working with women, with thousands of women in all levels of their career, from assistants to C-level women for years now. And the one group of women I was always unable to help were those that had left the workforce and wanted to get back in. And it was incredibly frustrating that I couldn't help these women, but I could only offer them inspiration, saying, you know, write on your resume that you work really hard. And it's really hard. Darcy, who is here, is saying that that's her. And I really understand your position, because that happens to so many of us. We're told this story that we can always get back in whenever we want, and it's simply false statistically. So what you want to be doing is finding another job that's going to earn you money. So what I noticed a lot of these very formerly professional, talented women doing is that they started selling skincare, makeup, clothing to their friends. Have any of you ever done that before? Or have any of you ever had friends who are trying to sell you things like essential oils or skincare? Okay, Darcy, yes, and she hated it. Yvonne also has. So Ash, yes. So one of the things I noticed in looking into it is I noticed that the women who were doing that weren't even making martini money, because you have to invest in buying products and then you sell them, and you have to invest more in buying products. And at the same time, you're jeopardizing your friendships, because people are running away from you because they don't want to buy more skincare. They bought it the first time out of guilt and they don't want to buy it anymore. So what ends up happening is that these people put themselves into a spiral. And when I looked into it, I noticed that 98% of women who are in direct sales are actually losing money. They're not even breaking even. At the same time, I personally had a front row seat to the credit card processing industry. Now, what is the credit card processing industry? Any business, from a dentist's office to a hair salon to a toy store or a sports stadium, any business that accepts credit cards has to have this intermediary between them and American Express, MasterCard, and Visa. Today, that intermediary is 18,000 men. And I thought, what if I trained this really incredible group of women to sell credit card processing to the local businesses in their hometowns, and they earn recurring revenue for it? Because let's say you sell a hair salon, you get $50 a month every month for that one account, and then you just keep selling. So I created a company called Park Place Payments, which trains women to sell financial services. And every single person who works with us has never, ever done payments before. We train them to sell payments. We don't charge them. We train them and we encourage them, and we do all their PowerPoints for them and their pricing analysis and ongoing training to sell Park Place. And we now have a group of over 100 account executives all over the country selling Park Place. And we're going to be building up to 1,000 next year. So if you are interested in working with us at Park Place Payments, we would love to have you. So please contact us. All you do is click on Join Our Family at parkplacepayments.com, and we'll get you started in your new career where you earn recurring revenue. Now, for those of you that are hearing about this for the first time, one of the things that's incredibly important, whether it's Park Place or something else, is that you're doing something where you're investing in your future. So you don't want to be selling a one-off product. If you're building a side hustle, you want it to be something that's going to be building a portfolio for you. Because essentially what you are is you are the CEO of you Inc. Okay. And your skills, you need to invest in your skills. So you always want to be learning. What happens to retirees? Why do retirees die at a faster rate than those who keep working? It's because they're not using their minds and their bodies, and they're not inspired and learning. And when we stop learning, we wilt. It's like a plant who's not watered. You always need to be learning. So one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to also be educating yourself. So for example, there's a few really great financial podcasts I can recommend to you. So Money with Farnoosh is a great financial podcast that will really interest you. Bobby Rebel has an excellent financial podcast called Financial Grown Up. And Jean Chatzky has a financial podcast. And all of those are ways to build your financial savvy, because if you don't understand money, then it's really hard to grow your money. So think about it. If we don't talk about money, if we don't educate ourselves about money, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice. So you always want to be focused on how to increase your knowledge, how to always be learning about money, and not to shy away from those conversations. Now, when I say invest in you, there's a number of ways to invest in yourself. As women, once again, we're taught to save. The other thing we're often taught to do is, a lot of articles I read say, learn how to say no. I actually think the opposite. I think you need to learn how to say yes. Say yes to that random invitation. Say yes to the book club. Say yes to that networking event. When you say yes, an entire world opens up to you. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, say yes. If you say yes for the next month to things that you never would have said yes to, even to your kids, if you say yes to the people in your life will improve dramatically. So start being one of those people that says yes before they say no. A lot of times we're defensive and we come from a place of pain, whether it's from our childhood or bad relationships. We get defensive and we like to say no before we say yes. Oh, no, that won't work. Oh, no, I can't do that. But if you say yes, you immediately come from a positive perspective. So say yes to building your network. Say yes to building your skills. Say yes to building your earning potential and ultimately your value. Now, one of the things I get a lot, my background is in work-life balance. And one of the things I hear a lot is, I barely have time to do anything. How would I increase my knowledge? How would I read a book? How would I listen to a podcast? How would I add a side hustle to my life? And what I will tell you is that life is supposed to be messy. And I like to use the image of the pie. The happiest, most fulfilled people are those that are involved in 7 areas of their life. They're involved in their careers, in their health, in their friends, in their hobbies, their communities, their relationship or their quest to find one, and their friends and their families, right? And so when you are involved in all of those areas, you know what's going to happen? Your life is going to be a little bit messy. But that's where the pie comes in, because you want to think of a pie as, when you buy that store-bought, perfect-looking pie, it's not nearly as delicious as that messy, dripping over the side pie. And your life is supposed to look like that messy pie. Leave the dirty dishes in the sink and say yes to margarita with a friend, okay? Because that's going to make you a better worker, a better parent, a better partner, because you'll be enjoying your life. And what you're role modeling to your colleagues, to your kids in your life, to the people in your life, what are you role modeling if you're just surviving, right? You want the people in your life to see you thriving. And part of thriving is enjoying your life. Now, I want you to think of yourself as the CEO of You Inc. That means thinking 10 years out. What should the next 10 years look like for you? What are your financial goals, right? How can you enjoy that latte and that new dress without feeling guilty, without feeling like it's stretching you or you're asking permission from your partner? You want to be able to get to a point where you're affording to make those decisions yourself. The other critical piece of this is to choose your partner wisely. I cannot emphasize this enough. I have never seen any woman reach her potential who isn't either single or partnered with someone who 100% respects their dreams, would never encourage them to leave the workforce, would never encourage them not to take that promotion or not to do that presentation because it's cutting into their time with them. You want to find someone who's fully in support of you reaching your dreams. So either be single or be partnered with someone who has full respect for you, because it's really, really hard to reach your dreams if you don't have that. Now, how many of you, now we're all strangers on this, so you can share honestly, who here is partnered with someone who isn't supportive of their dreams, and what are the issues? And if you'd rather say less, you can say less. But is anyone on here in a situation with their partner where there's an imbalance when it comes to money, where their partner controls money? Well, I will tell you, I used to host a call-in radio show for many years, and I had so many people calling me about this specific topic, where they were in a situation where they didn't control money, they didn't have full access to bank accounts, they weren't able to make financial decisions on their own. They were always in a situation where they were being manipulated in some way by money. Someone here said, my husband tells me I stress out too much about money, that we have enough, but I want to make and save more. A lot of people will say that they are in a situation where their husband will say, you can't buy that, or they're hiding things. 40% of Americans who are partnered have committed financial infidelity. That means they've hidden a purchase from their partner. So think about that. Most of those people are women. So you never want to get into a situation where you're hiding that new pair of shoes from your partner because you think they'll get upset with you. You want to be in a position where you are feeling powerful. And the only way to do that is if you are earning money of your own, right? So you want to be really choosing your partner wisely. Now, if you are already partnered, let's say you have kids with a person and you're already sort of stuck in a situation where you are earning less, or you're never going to be in a situation of full respect from your partner, how do you fix it? Well, before you run and get divorced, I would encourage you to try to change it. And one of the ways is to have a partner station. Don't expect your partner to be a mind reader. Go home tonight and over your favorite beverage, whether it be a glass of wine or a cup of tea, sit there and say, I feel like I'd have more time for us if we were splitting things more evenly around the house or with childcare. And that will get you talking. And then what I'd like you to do is make a list, have each of you have a pad, and you make a list of all the things that you take care of in a given day or given week. And most likely your partner's list will be a lot shorter than yours. Now, it's impossible to reach your financial potential if you're doing 90% of the work at home, because your time is stuck doing all that work at home. But assuming you are partnered with someone who's a rational, reasonable person, they're going to see that list and want to change it up a little bit and reconfigure the division of labor. Just like if you were doing the same position of someone with the same job title as you at work, and their list was this long and yours is this long, you would expect that there'd be a redivision of that labor. And so that's what you want to be creating with your partner. Someone shared that they were never taught how to effectively manage money, and they're now learning at 47. Well, I applaud you, Darcy, for learning at 47. It's never, ever too late to learn. And it's actually fun to educate yourself and feel like you really understand money. So it's something I would encourage all of you to do, because you can't be the CEO of your own company, of You Inc., if you don't understand money. So before we open it up to Q&A, I just want to share with you finally a few strategies that is going to change your relationship with financial independence and money and help you be the CEO of You Inc. Number one, you're going to be thinking 10 years out. You're really going to have a long-term plan. So everything that you buy and save and spend on today and earn, all of that is going to be part of your 10-year plan. The second thing is, if you're not already partnered up, you want to choose your partner really wisely. And part of that is not just choosing someone who believes in you, but also someone who's not going to squander the money you earn or saddle you with bad credit or be irresponsible financially. So having a really responsible partner is important. Now, the third thing that we haven't talked enough about is paying attention to your story. Now, you could have a situation where you were a teacher. Now you're in financial services, What you want to be able to do is you want to weave that story together for other people. So one of the worst things you can do, if you're a stay-at-home mom or you're now working part-time or you left for a while, think about it. One of the worst things you can do is someone says to you, "What do you do for a living?" And you say, "Oh, I'm home with the kids." And then you stop talking. Well, that's really not giving a three-dimensional picture of who you are. It's very different to say, "I was in marketing for 10 years and now I'm home for a little bit with the kids before I return." That changes the way that person thinks of you. And every single person in your life is a potential work connection, whether it's someone you meet in line at Starbucks or someone you meet on the playground or on an airplane or at a networking event. All of those people know someone who can help you professionally. And so you always want to understand your story. Now, your story should be a connect the dots, like a highlight reel of the highlights of your life. So there's two ways to tell any story, right? You can be the kind of person who says, "Of course it would rain on my birthday," but nobody wants to hang out with that person, right? So you want to be the person who says, "Oh, good, it's raining. Now we can be cozy and have hot chocolate." You always want to be thinking of the positive side of things, because when you are positive, great things come to you. We've all been in that situation where you wake up and something goes wrong and you're just in a really grumpy mood. And then suddenly you go somewhere and it feels like everyone's leaving you out. It's because you're putting out bad energy and then bad energy is coming back to you. So it's the same with your life. The more positive you can see in your life, even if you're in a bad spot right now, if you're in transition, you're in between things, understand what your accomplishments are. Because if you can't speak about your accomplishments with authority, no one else will be able to. And people are kind of lazy in the way they tell stories. I'm going to have a sip of water. So the way people tell stories is how they hear them. When you present a story in a really positive light, "I grew sales at my last job by 50%, and I managed a team of 10 people, and I've always been super organized." People believe you. No one's going to say, "Prove that you're organized," right? Or, "I'm a really hard worker." No one says prove it before they hire you. Then once you're hired, they'll expect you to prove it. But people tend to believe what you tell them. So talk about yourself like your biggest fan, because you're the CEO of You Inc. And the CEO talks about their company in the best possible light. So know your story inside and out. Be able to weave a story the way it makes sense to other people. People don't like to hear, "Well, I was a dental hygienist and now I'm a lawyer." They want to hear, "Well, I was a dental hygienist and then I got sued and I realized I didn't know anything about the law. And so I put myself through law school and now I'm a lawyer." Then you're like, "Oh my gosh, that person's amazing," right? But if you just heard, "Oh, I was a dental hygienist and then I just changed things up and became a lawyer," it's a lot less intriguing. Every single one of you has a really interesting story. It's just about how you tell it. Now, the fourth thing is you always want to be learning and earning. So that means advancing your skill set, taking classes, learning from mentors, learning from people who are better than you, and reading as much as you can, and listening to podcasts or educating yourself, and figuring out ways to earn additional money. That means asking for the raise. That means going for the promotion. That means getting that side hustle together, going for the bigger job, saying yes to the bigger opportunity. And that means building your skill set and your resume. So I want to open it up to questions. I want to share with you that if you want to connect with me more, you can always connect with me on social media on every platform at Samantha Ettus, from Instagram to Twitter. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter, which is about work-life balance, at samanthaettus.com. Or you can join us at parkplacepayments.com, and hopefully you'll become a member of our team. So now I would love to open it up to any questions you have. Cindy shared that she loved the newsletter. Thank you. It comes out every Thursday, so it'll be coming out today.
Thanks so much, Sam. That was a really great conversation. A lot of great tips in there. Just a reminder to everybody, you can leave questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll look between both. And all of those links and websites that Sam just mentioned to her personal pages and Park Place Payments we will be including with the recording. So it'll all be sent out in an email to you following this later today. So let's start with the first question. How can I approach having a conversation about finances and budgeting with my partner? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, so one of the things you want to do is you want to say, you know, I realize that we would as a couple be more powerful if we talked about money more fluently. And I want to educate myself and I want to do my part. So you never want to put your partner on the defensive when you're talking about anything, and especially when it comes to money. The number one reason couples get divorced is because of money issues. So you never want to be in a situation where you're entering into a conversation very combatively. You want to say, I feel like we would be in a stronger position if we communicated more effectively about money, and I was able to help you more with money in terms of earning and also thinking about, you know, how we can divide and conquer. So the more you understand about it, the more apt and wanting your partner is going to be in terms of having these conversations with you. So even if it's having a weekly conversation, let's talk every Sunday night about the schedule and our finances, and we'll be in good standing in that front. Anyone else have any questions about money, anything money related or financial independence related? Or you can talk about your own personal situation. I'm happy to help you answer any questions about that.
I have another question about side hustles here. Do you have any advice for how I should start a side hustle? I'm really interested in starting another job, but I don't know how to go about it.
Yeah. So basically, I think one of the most important things that you can think about is you want to find a side hustle that's going to advance your resume and your skill set. So you don't want to do something that's not going to help you learn. So you want to, let's say, learn how to sell or learn, you know, for example, there's a lot of side hustles like walking dogs. That's not really going to change your financial situation very much. And what are you learning, right? And it's giving people the impression that you're a dog walker and that, you know, that's where your skill set lies. It's really important to be doing something that's growing you, making sure that you have a title that you feel good about, that you have, you know, skills that you're going to be learning. So part of signing on to a side hustle is getting a guarantee that there's going to be ongoing training and an ongoing education that you're really building with, rather than just being in a situation where you're not advancing your skills. So if you're always growing, A, it builds your confidence, and B, it opens up opportunities to you. So for example, at Park Place Payments, which is a side hustle for some people and a career for others, we have ongoing training every week. So in addition to our initial training, we make sure that we're not just training on payments industry, but we're also training on sales skills and life management skills and work-life balance skills and time management skills, and things that are actually going to boost your, you know, ability to get to the next level in your career, because maybe you don't want to stay in this situation and you want to use this as a launching pad to go back to a corporate job. We've made sure that everyone in our team is called an account executive so that they, you know, have a job title that they can be proud of and put on a resume. So it's really important that you're always thinking about how this basically fits into your narrative. Someone wrote, how do you stay motivated to succeed when things feel so overwhelming? Think about what gives you joy. Okay. First of all, the number one thing I would say is focus on your health. So make sure you're getting enough sleep, and don't mistake a lack of sleep with depression, because when we don't sleep enough, we feel down. Okay. So make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're eating well, you feel healthy. And then once that happens, you want to say, what am I trying to succeed for? Right. So if you're always on a hamster wheel and you have kids and you're never enjoying time with your kids, you're grumpy, you're impatient, then you have to sit back and say, what am I doing here? Right. Because I'm not being a good parent, and I'm not being good to myself, and I'm not enjoying anything. So figure out what gives you joy. One of the things I encourage single women or parents or any woman to do is to go out at least one night a week, because you need that night out like a car needs gas. If you don't have joy in your life, it's going to be really hard to have energy to do the things you need to do. So part of staying motivated isn't just always working. Part of it is making sure that you have a really three-dimensional life that involves a lot of things that you enjoy. One of the best things I've ever learned is in terms of how to boost your creativity, right? Because if you're motivated and feeling creative and have great ideas, you can get a lot accomplished. One of the best ways to do that is not to work more, but it's to take a new route to work, take a walk around the block, do a hobby, do something a little bit differently that's going to change your mindset. Sometimes really, really small changes can yield giant results. Another question is, how you have a great brand. How can you give us some tips on building your brand, reputation, social media? So in 2001, I had started a personal branding firm. I was right out of business school at Harvard, and I started a company that was focused on personality-driven brands. And it was very early on in the personal branding thing. Now people are a lot more familiar with branding themselves. One of the things that is so much easier in the last 10 years is social media, right? So let's say, for example, that I was someone who was a lawyer who did wills, and I created people's wills. If I went online, I could get the Twitter handle, do your will, or, the will queen, right? And that would be my Twitter handle. And then suddenly it's like hanging a shingle up where everyone suddenly thinks of me that way. And every day I could tweet articles about trust and estates and wills. So one of the things you want to think about is your social media presence. Is it telling a story you want to tell that's going to lift you in your career? So for example, if you really care about getting back into the workforce and you've been a stay-at-home mom for a while, if your Facebook picture is a picture of your kids, you're probably not being taken very seriously by that employer. People want to see you. They want to see that friend that they used to know. They want to see that person they just interviewed. So make sure that your social media presence is professional, because the bottom line is you have one chance to make a first impression. And so you want that first impression to be one of you that you're proud of, that you show up on time, that you look professional in your headshot, that you have a good LinkedIn profile that looks professional, that your bio sounds good. Have your best writer friend review it and make sure that it's something you're proud of. But you can literally change your brand today. You don't have to wait a new job from now, or a new relationship from now, or promotion from now. You can build your own brand today, and it's never too late to start. But you don't want to be the person on social media who is always taking selfies and not saying anything thoughtful, or you don't want to be the person on social media who is not being honest and raw about their life. People want to feel connected to you. And so there's a happy medium. You don't want to be complaining about your car payments, but you also don't want to be, not sharing that, sometimes you mess up and sometimes things happen. So use it wisely. Another question, how can I help a friend who needs a shift in her relationship with money? One of the first things you want to do is really talk about money. And when we get women to be more comfortable talking about money, they all win. Now, I would also translate this to how we talk about our careers. I personally had to train my husband to start saying to women at a work event or at a dinner party, what do you do? I've noticed that very few men ask me what I do. They assume I'm a stay-at-home mom, or they don't want to ask in case I'm a stay-at-home mom. But what's the worst thing that happens is I'm a stay-at-home mom who says, oh, well, I used to be a dentist and now I'm home. At least they know more about me. It's not something I'd be embarrassed by. So if someone says they're a stay-at-home mom, you say, oh, what did you used to do? And you allow them to tell their story if they're not going to. So one of the best things you can do is to say to other women, what do you do? Expect that they have something interesting to say. Don't assume they don't. You don't want to just talk about traffic and the weather. You want to be asking about their lives. And next time you go to dinner with a girlfriend, say you just saw this webinar on money and you've been thinking a lot about your own relationship with money, and be honest about your relationship with money and then ask them about theirs. That's one of the best ways you can help other women, is to talk about your own strategies, strengths, and weaknesses as it relates to money, and then ask them about their own relationship with money. And what you'll find is they'll open up about a well of other things, because our relationships with money touch upon all other relationships in our lives. It affects our relationship with our neighbors, with our friends, with in our relationship, in the power dynamics of our relationship. So people end up telling you a lot about their lives just by talking about their relationship with money. Another thing is in our own homes. Like, we might come from parents who are uncomfortable talking about money. So opening up that discussion with your parents can really help them and help you understand your family history with money, because the more you understand your background with money and how that impacts you today, the easier it is to understand how you can change things in the future, because you don't want to repeat history and repeat the same mistakes that your parents made. By the same token, if your parents were amazing with money, you want to learn from them. So it helps to ask them about what they did and what strategies worked for them.
We had a really great question that I love coming from Cindy. She asks, how can I become unstuck when I've been home for a few years and it's somewhat comfortable to do the home things, yet my mind needs more?
So I think, I can relate to this in the sense that, like, if it's a Sunday morning and I'm stuck at home and I just want to be in bed reading, but I have a zillion things to do, like, it's very comfortable working from home, getting into a very comfortable lifestyle. But I would imagine that if you're asking this question right now, your life feels like a B, like a solid B, right? And you want to be striving for that life that gives you an A plus. And so, and maybe a landed A minus, right? But you don't want to settle for just an okay life. You want an awesome life, and you want to be bringing as much as possible to the table. So one of the ways you can do that is start going out more, going to lectures, take a class at your local college, do things that used to interest you. One of the things that I always recommend, because this is not just about increasing your job opportunities, it's also about increasing your network and changing your prism. So one of the things I recommend is going to your local university and getting a course catalog and looking at it and saying, oh my gosh, it would be so much fun to take an improv class, or I used to love archaeology. And that really, really helps your mind. I also, no matter how busy I get, I am always reading a novel. So it might take me sometimes 2 months to get through the novel, but I am happier when I'm learning. So I personally learn so much more, I think, from fiction. Even though I write nonfiction books, I personally learn so much more from fiction than nonfiction. So I would encourage everyone, it really changes your mind and your brain when you're reading great writing. So I always think you should be reading a great novel. You should always be expanding your community and your network. So taking yourself out of your comfort zone and always be learning. So every day at the end of the day, if you just say to yourself, Cindy, am I learning? What did I learn today? Am I pushing myself? Could I be doing more? Would I feel better if I earned more money? If I got out there more? Use that skill set instead of putting yourself down. Someone shared with me something very interesting the other day. A woman shared that she had just hurt her knee, and she's had this incredible career, but right after she decided to make a transition, she hurt her knee really badly, and she's now in rehab 4 hours a day. And she said that she got a job offer recently when she was at a networking event, and she couldn't believe someone offered her a job. And she went home to her husband and said, can you believe I got a job offer? And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I just think of myself as this like disabled person now. I don't know why, but having this knee injury is my identity. And if you think about how you are being home now, it's probably embedded now a little bit into your identity as the person who stays home, the person who figures out what's for dinner at noon. If you're busy, you don't have the luxury of thinking about those things all day long, and the small things become less important. But when you're home for a while, suddenly the small things become the big things. And we're all happier when the small things aren't the big things. So that's another way to think about it.
Great. I think we have time for one more question. I really like this one because it touches at passion versus money. So somebody from the audience asked, should I leave a career that I love for a lot more money where vesting is on the table after 10 years? So essentially I'd be able to pick up my career after 10 years. Or should I stay at this career that I currently love?
So should you go to a totally different career, the question is, because you're investing?
Because it has a lot more money on the table, I think.
Yeah. I mean, this is very tricky. If your current career is capped and there's no earning potential at another company that's like this, then you have to think long-term about what your financial goals are and whether this career can get you there, because this career might need to become your hobby, and making money is your career. Because you never want to be completely sacrificing your financial future for something you love. You want to find that happy medium.
That's really great advice. It looks like we have just hit time. So I want to thank you again, Samantha. This was a really great conversation that we had today. I think you gave us a lot of great tips and helpful advice to walk away with.
Thank you, Fairygodboss, for having me. Thanks.
Of course. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. Make sure you look out for that email with all of Samantha's info and Park Place payments coming to you later today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Everyone.